The best decision I ever made wasn't mine. It came from a circle of people who saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. People who asked the right questions, the questions I was afraid to ask. People who told me the truth even when I wasn't ready to hear it. And truth is, I almost didn't listen because somewhere along the way, I learned, like a lot of us did, that needing people meant you were weak, that figuring things out alone was a strength, that independence in this human existence was the goal. But what if that belief, that very deeply held belief, is the exact thing that's keeping you stuck? Today, I want to talk about something I think about constantly, something that sits at the heart of everything I create. It's called collective wisdom. I actually like to call it collective guidance, but I see wisdom from others like I see guidance. And once you understand how it actually works, you'll never make a major decision the same way again. Stay with me. Listen, we live in a culture that worships the self-made person. It's all over social media, how I did this, I did that. The solo founder who built it from nothing, the lone genius in the garage, the person who didn't need anyone, asked for nothing, and figured it out all by themselves. We romanticize it. We put it on motivational posters and we make movies about it. And look, I get it. There's something powerful about self-reliance, about knowing you can handle things. And I'm not here to take that away. I believe that you can definitely handle things. But here is what nobody talks about. Solo thinking has a ceiling. Your brain, this incredible thing that is in our head that is helping operate this human system, your brain can only work with what it's been exposed to. Your experiences, your beliefs, your fears, your blind spots, your version of the story. Because your version of the story is the only one that it really knows. And when you make a big decision from inside that bubble of information, you're not thinking clearly. You're thinking familiarity, which is a very different thing. Familiarity is so much different than clarity. There's actually a term for this in psychology. It's called confirmation bias. We unconsciously look for information that confirms what we already believe. And when we only consult ourselves or people who think exactly like us, we just build a bigger echo chamber for it to be in. We are not looking outside of ourselves and outside of this reality that we have created. And look, I've done this. I've made a decision many years ago, a big one, completely on my own. I was so sure that I had thought it through. I had made lists. I had journaled about it. I prayed on it. I called in my angels. I was consulting all of my spirit guides and my spiritual board of directors. And I had convinced myself that I was right. I was going to stick to it. And then I realized I was wrong, not because I was stupid. I don't believe that, but because I only had one perception, and it was mine. I wasn't looking outside of the program that I had in my brain. The moment I finally opened up to people I trusted, to my community, to voices outside of my own head, I saw the decision completely differently. And that's when I started to understand what collective wisdom actually is and what it can do. Because what it did for me was it took me to the next playing level and I leveled up. I was able to make changes that needed to be made. So let's break this down because collective wisdom can sound abstract or even a little woo woo. I mean, I love woo woo, but I know that things have to be concrete. So let's make them concrete and bring it in to groundedness. Collective wisdom is not a group of people you're agreeing with. It's not. It's not crowdsourcing a decision on Instagram. And it's definitely not doing whatever someone else tells you to do. It is not doing what someone else tells you to do. Here's what it actually is. 3 things. The first element of collective wisdom is diverse perspective. This means surrounding yourself intentionally with people who see the world differently than you do. Different backgrounds, different experiences, different areas of expertise, different relationships to risk. Because anything that you do, there's a risk in it. When I bring a guest on to collective guidance, I'm not looking for someone who thinks like me. I'm looking for someone who's been somewhere I haven't, seen something I couldn't see, learn something through a path I've never walked. That gap between what I know and what they know, that's where the wisdom lies. In that gap, I want you to ask yourself, who are the people I go to when I'm stuck? Do they all basically think like me? If the answer is yes, that's not a support system. That's a mirror, a reflection, and reflections, mirrors don't give you any new information to work with. The second element in this is guided reflection. This one is subtle, but I think sometimes it might be the most powerful. There are answers inside you that you cannot access alone, not because they aren't there and not because you're not tapped in, but because you need someone to ask the right questions to unlock those answers that live within inside of you. You need to question. Now, this is something I've experienced deeply through my own work with human design. I'm a projector in human design with a splenic authority. That means my truth comes through in an instant. It's in the body, level knowing, not a mental calculation. I mean, I just know it. But I've learned that my splenic knowing gets louder, clearer, more accessible when I'm in conversation with people who genuinely sees me. And, I often reflect about my partner and how he just always asks the right questions in the right moment. And I want to be clear, he's not my therapist. That is not therapy. That's not coaching. That's just collective wisdom doing its work. When someone can ask the right questions in the right moment, that is you being tapped into one another. And that being collective wisdom, the collective guidance that is coming through. The third element to this, and this one is practical, is accountability. Accountability through community is absolutely everything. Here's something that I've noticed: when decisions are made in isolation, they tend to evaporate. You make a choice, you're fired up about it for a few days, and then life happens. Resistance shows up, and slowly, quietly, you talk yourself back out of it. But when a decision's made in community, they stick. When another person witnesses your commitment, when you've spoken it out loud to someone who cares, something shifts. The decision becomes real in a different way, in a completely different way. That's what happened with this podcast. When I decided to do it, I consulted a few people, and then with my partner, I said, I'm going to do this. And because I said that in front of him, it was a decision. It stuck because at times he became my accountability. I firmly believe this is why mastermind groups work, why accountability partners work, why the right podcast conversation at the right moment can change the direction of your life. I firmly believe that we are not meant to do this alone. Doing it alone, that's not a weakness. That's actually how we as humans are designed and wired to be. I want to tell you a story, and this was the perfect collective wisdom. When I had my cycle studio, it was called Time Trial Cycle. And time trial cycle is a term in the cycling industry of racing. And having the studio as the name Time Trial Cycle, people thought the cycling studio was all about competing when really it wasn't. So a couple of years in, numerous people told me that I should change the name. And I kept saying, no, 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 I'm not going to change the name. Maybe a year, 2 years. And people kept saying, change the name, change the name. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. I branded it. It's branded this way. And I realized I was wrong because I eventually consulted a group of my girlfriends and said, what do you think is the reason why people are afraid to come to my cycling studio? And one of them said, well, the name is Time Trial Cycle. It's competitive. And I shut her down. I said, no, it's not. It's not competitive. And she said, yes, it is. And I said, well, I have one client that called me his cycle guru. And she says, that's the name, Cycle Guru. And at first I didn't want to listen. I was very resistant. And then I met with another friend who was in business, and I said, they say I should change the name to Cycle Guru. What do you think about that? And I said, I just don't know how to spell it. I don't want to spell it Guru. And that's already been trademarked, so you can't use that. He said, you don't spell it that way because you don't believe yourself to be a guru. So make a pun out of it, make a joke kind of out of it, and spell it this way. Well, I didn't like the way that he spelled it, but I didn't want to turn him down. So I took that and I walked away. And then I consulted another friend and she said, actually, spell it this way. And that's how I spelt it. That is what collective wisdom can do. After I changed the name of the studio did really well. People were more open to come to it. It was just really beautiful. I had a conversation with a dear loved one not that long ago, and I think about it often. My loved one came and talking about a decision they'd been sitting with for months. Maybe you can relate to this. Maybe you have a decision you've been sitting with for a while. They knew something needed to change. They could feel it. But every time they tried to make the move, they'd spiral back into doubt, back into what if I'm wrong, back into waiting. And in our conversation, not because I said anything particularly brilliant, but because they finally said it out loud to someone who was really listening, something cracked open. They stopped mid sentence and said, I've known the answer this whole time. I just needed to hear myself say it. I want you to know that's collective wisdom. It's not always about getting advice. It's about having a witness, someone who holds space when you find your own way back to yourself. I used to think that asking for help meant I didn't have what it took, that if I was really capable, I'd be able to figure it out alone. I now know deeply within and understand that the most strategic, most intelligent, most self-aware thing I can do is when I need other people's eyes to look at it. That's someone that wants to see their business expand or their life expand and make a shift. That's what they do. That shift from independence as identity to interdependence as strategy, that has changed everything for me and my work and my relationships and how I lead. And I firmly believe that's why Spirit gave me the name for this podcast, Collective Guidance, not individual guidance, collective, because I genuinely believe that we are all better, wiser, more courageous, more clear together. Okay. So, how do you actually start doing this without feeling like you're codependent? That's the thing. You're not codependent. Okay. You are taking the temperature to see if it feels right in your body. And also, you're not relying on other people to figure it out for you. You are relying on your inner wisdom. So here are 4 steps you can begin today. First, audit your decision circle. Get a piece of paper out and write down 3 to 5 people you currently go to when you have a big decision to make. Now, ask yourself, are these people diverse? Do they bring different experiences, different worldviews, different relationships to risk? Or do they all basically think like you and tell you what you want to hear? If your circle is an echo chamber, that doesn't mean these people are bad. It means your circle is incomplete. You don't need to blow up. You just need to expand it. Second, and this is what my partner has taught me, and I value it so much. Ask better questions. Most of us go to our people and ask, what should I do? And that question, as well intended as it is, that puts the answers outside of you. I have that experience because I've asked him that before. What should I do? And he brings it back to me. What do you feel like you should do? So instead of asking, what should I do? Ask these questions instead. What am I not seeing? What would you do if you weren't worried about my reaction? Where do you see me getting in my own way? Now, those questions invite truth, real truth, not just reassurance. Okay. Because reassurance is not going to move the needle. The third one, be intentional about whose wisdom you're consuming. Podcasts, books, communities, masterminds. Listen, these are not just for entertainment. They're input into your mind, and your decisions are only as good as your inputs. When I created collective guidance, that was the whole idea, that a conversation recorded and shared could become wisdom for hundreds, maybe even thousands, or just one. If I am just providing some kind of out of the box thinking for one person, I feel as if my soul has done my work. And it's for people who needed exactly that perspective at exactly that moment. And that's why they showed up. I want you to know that you are always just one conversation away from a completely different perspective and clarity. The fourth one, and this is important, you have to integrate before you act. After you gather all the input, after you've listened to perspectives, after you've asked the better questions, go within. Don't rush to make a decision at that moment. Go for a walk, sleep on it, sit with it, because collective guidance, collective wisdom isn't just about what other people pour into you. It's about what rises up in you after. Whatever language your body uses for that inner signal. And that inner signal speaks most clearly in stillness after the conversation. You want to gather the wisdom and then let yourself arrive at your own truth. Remember, this is your own truth. So here's what I want to leave you with. Solo thinking has a ceiling. And at some point, every one of us hits it. We get stuck. We spiral. We get in a loop. We can't stop thinking about it, and we need a different perspective. We make the same decisions we've already made 10 times, wondering why the outcome keeps looking the same. And it's because we're not stepping out and getting a bigger perspective of what is real. Collective wisdom is what breaks that ceiling. And it's not about outsourcing your choices. You're not having other people make your choices for you. It's about expanding what you're able to see so that when you do make your decisions, you're making it from a much wider, much clearer, much more honest place within. And you deserve that kind of clarity, that kind of knowing within, that kind of connection to yourself. So I want you to know that you are not weak for asking for guidance from others. It is great to have other perspectives, and it is actually a superpower. I hope you feel that within. Look, if this episode resonated with you today, I'd love for you to subscribe. I publish twice a week with a speaker and then once on my own. And All of it is designed to help you think deeper, decide better, move through the world with more intention. And if you want to go even further, the Collective Guidance Podcast is where these conversations live in full. We go deep. We get honest. We explore things that most people don't want to talk about. If you didn't listen to Monday's episode about the pelvic floor, you definitely need to do that. That is some really great information. But before you go, drop a comment. Tell me what's one decision you wish you hadn't made alone. I read every single comment, and I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you on the next one. And like I said, if you like this, hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and thank you so much for being part of this community.